Welcome to Table Talk, where there's always room at the table. I am your host, Jonathan Harmon of the J. Harmon Home Team, and we can't wait to talk to these fine guests. Enjoy the show.
All right, Michelle.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Table Talk. I'm Jonathan Harmon. I'm Jonathan Harmon. I even messed up my own name.
At the table. I am your host, Jonathan Harmon of the J. Harmon Home Team, and we can't wait to talk.
No, we're good. All right, we're good. Sorry. Excuse me.
Okay, trying this again.
Yep.
Hey, y'all. I'm Jonathan Harmon. Welcome to Table Talk. Today, I am going to interview my fabulous guest and my friend, Dena Oneal. Welcome, Dena.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Other than allergies, pretty good.
I know, man, these allergies are kicking in.
Yeah.
So, tell us what you've got going on. I'm just going to jump in because I know you have a huge event coming up, and I want everybody to know about it.
Well, I actually volunteer with a couple of different nonprofits that have some events coming up. So I'll just kind of go through the list a little bit. All right. So I am an alumna from UT Knoxville, and I am on the Southern Middle Tennessee Alumni Board. And on May 19th, we have our UT Social at Arrington. So what we do is we invite all of the alumni from the Middle Tennessee area to come on out to Arrington, and people start arriving at 5:30. We go till they close down at about 9. They have lots of that frozen rosé that everybody loves so much.
Yes.
That you can purchase on your own. Please drink responsibly, though. Have to say that. And they have some food trucks, so you can grab some dinner. And it's just a great way for local alumni to kind of catch up. And then we are soliciting donations for our student scholarship fund. So every alumni council raises money for scholarships to send students right here in our area to UT Knoxville. Last year, we were able to raise enough money to provide 3 scholarships to students. So
that was awesome.
That was very exciting. So we have that coming up May 19th at Arrington, beginning at 5:30. We're usually at the top of the hill, right in the middle. Can't miss us. Big orange and white tents. Lots of people in orange and white. A little hard to,
hard to miss y'all, right?
A little hard to miss out there. Yeah. So that's going to be a good time and raise some money for a good cause. Then the other big event in my life is the Walk to End Alzheimer's. So many people don't know, I used to work for the Alzheimer's Association, but my connection to Alzheimer's actually goes further back than that. So my undergraduate degree is in speech pathology. So I actually worked with Alzheimer's patients in one of my first jobs.
Right.
My family also had the tough times of my grandfather being diagnosed with Alzheimer's and living 5 years with it. And then after he passed away, my grandmother was diagnosed with the disease, which is not uncommon for the caregiver to be diagnosed with some form of dementia or some other health illness.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the stress of caregiving.
Okay.
There's a lot of statistics out there that talk about it. Causes them to develop earlier
symptoms,
different diseases.
Okay.
But she developed Alzheimer's herself, and she lived 10 years with the disease.
Oh, wow.
At the time, we did not know about the Alzheimer's Association. I was just trying to send information to my mom that I was getting at work. My aunt's a speech pathologist. She was trying to send information in. And it was very difficult because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what doctors to go to. And in their community, there was only one assisted living and it was the only assisted living for several communities around their town.
Okay.
My grandmother was the cook for that facility for
Okay.
many, many years before having to become a resident.
Right.
So in one way that was good because she was very familiar with it, and
Sure.
she just thought, no big deal, I'm just gonna stay. But on the other hand, it was very difficult for the staff to see
Sure.
somebody that they knew so well start to slowly disappear in front of their eyes.
Sure.
Physically, they were there, but the personality was going away.
Right.
And so my mom and her siblings really struggled with that a great deal. And my mom's the oldest of 10. And a couple of years ago, one of her brothers was diagnosed with another form of dementia.
Okay.
And at that point, we knew about the association, and she was able to connect, and she was able to give my aunt all of the information. They could connect in their community,
Right.
because the great thing is the Alzheimer's Association is nationwide. So there are chapters in every state. So there are resources in every state to help people in their community.
Right.
So that was a huge help. Well, a year goes by. My mom's youngest sister, who's my age, I'm actually 4 days older than her, is diagnosed with younger onset Alzheimer's.
Interesting.
So younger onset Alzheimer's, for those who don't know, is anybody under the age of 65
Okay.
who is diagnosed with the disease. And when talking to my mom about the situations, both past and present, I asked her, was there anything that made a difference? What was the most hopeful? And she said, honestly, having the association there, going to support groups, belonging to some of the research studies is her way of giving back and helping.
Right.
It was night and day compared to dealing with her parents and the
Sure.
disease. So I volunteer my time for them in memory of them, because I don't want my children to have to go through what my mom and her siblings had to go through
Right.
in terms of looking at me. And if I develop the disease, what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? What doctors do they call? What facilities do they use? Right now, we're dealing with a desert in terms of gerontologists in the Tennessee area.
Sure.
We do not have enough.
Would you tell people what that is?
Sure. A
Specifically?
gerontologist is a physician, a doctor who specifically works with the older population, the geriatric population. And so they are very well versed in dementia, all other diseases that impact those older ages.
Right.
And with our generation of baby boomers aging into the age of diagnosis, which is over 65,
Right.
we don't have enough doctors to match that population. We don't have enough assisted livings to match that population.
Right.
We don't have enough resources, period, to match that. And so the Alzheimer's Association is really trying to help fill that need, and they do it at no cost to the families or the doctors. They have resources for doctors that are at no charge for them. And I think that's pretty amazing.
I was unaware of that, like that there was a place out there for, to get the resources and get the information that you need. My grandmother and her twin sister, who was a nun, both were diagnosed maybe a year apart. And it it was it's heartbreaking to watch because, like you said, the body is there and you have the memories, but they're not really completely with you.
They call it the long goodbye for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very difficult. We have 55 million people in the world who are currently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. In Rutherford County alone, it is the 4th leading cause of death. Let
That
me
is a
repeat that.
staggering
4th leading cause of death in
That-
this county.
wow. That is a staggering statistic.
It is, very much so. And so some of the resources that they can provide are a 24-hour hotline. They have this phone number, 1-800-272-3900. And it is staffed by master's level clinicians. They're all social workers and such.
Okay.
They can assist in almost 200 different languages because they do not want language to be a barrier to receiving services.
Wow.
You can call this number. Anyone can call this number. Doctors can call this number. CNAs can call this number, the caregivers at the assisted living.
Right.
If you were caring for somebody in your home, say your mom, it's
Sure.
2:30 in the morning, we're having an episode, don't know what to do, you can call that number. And
What was
so
that number one more time?
it is 1-800-272-3900.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And they can give you tips of what to do in that moment. They can walk you through it. They
Right.
can give you resources specific to your zip code because they'll ask you what your zip code is. You don't know a neurologist to go to, give your zip code. They'll tell you all of the neurologists who've registered with the system.
Right.
It is an incredible, incredible help. And I think it's underused because people
Absolutely.
aren't quite aware of it yet.
I didn't know about this until right now. And a lot of these things, especially that phone number, would have been very helpful. You know, my mom brought my grandmother here to visit at one point, and um, she had an episode, and my mom had gone to work, and she started screaming and cussing me out and like coming at me like she was going to hit me. And she thought I was somebody else.
Mhm.
Because she kept calling me that person's name.
Right.
And we called her Momo. And I was like, Momo, it's me, it's Michelle. And she was like, you're lying to me. And I was like, oh. And then she just kind of calmed down. And then another time I took her to the St. Clair's Senior
Yeah,
Center.
uh-huh.
Yeah. And she was going to stay for the day while my mom and I were at work. And she said she didn't want to stay there. And while I was speaking with the staff, she ran. The door opened and she ran out the door and took off. And we
Yeah.
had to go chase her.
It's called elopement when people do that, and
Okay.
it can be quite common. I once chased a lady who I was doing therapy with who decided she needed to go home
Yeah.
because it was time to put her garden in. And
Okay.
I was holding her up from that and wasting her time. And so she took off out the door down to the bus stop. Now, were we incredibly lucky that the same bus driver drove that route every day and had conversations previously with the staff of what to do, which is
Right.
basically stall, stall, stall till staff
Yeah.
members could catch up because sometimes they're
Sure.
very quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was amazed at how quickly my grandmother could run.
You're like, you can move that
Yeah.
fast. Okay. I didn't know that. It's very common. And then you're like in the moment, what do? I don't know what to do. You're so almost paralyzed with the
Yeah.
emotions of what's going on with your loved one, because it's very
Yeah.
difficult with a loved one to set aside those emotions and think
Yeah.
through a problem solving situation.
Yeah. And as it was happening, like I remember it in slow motion, kind of like, okay, this happened, and then all of a sudden we were here, but it kind of went in a slow pan,
Yeah.
and I think uh, maybe dumbstruck
Mhm.
is the right word, that I'm like, what the heck is going on, man?
Yeah.
And like we all went out, like it was me and the lady I was speaking with and some other staff members walked
The
out, and
entourage.
yeah. And I mean, I think I was pregnant with my first child at the time, and I was like, Momo, you have to slow down. I'm pregnant. I can't run that fast.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I'm not going back in
Nope.
there.
Not happening.
I was like, okay.
Yes. So, when situations like that occur, they can utilize that hotline
Yeah.
and get help right away.
Right.
They'll be able to have suggestions of what to do, what to say. And something else that the association offers is they often offer these free classes. They have about 10 topics ish that they offer classes on. Some are in person, some are virtual, some
Okay.
you can find on the website, which is www.alz.org. I want to say com, but that's not it. It's
Right.
alz.org. And you can take the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's,
That was one of my questions for you.
which is very popular among the senior set to
Sure.
take. Another one is how to speak with someone who has the disease, because you don't want to, for
Yes.
example, correct them
Oh,
when they're
yes.
in a moment. It's not
Mhm.
going to happen. That
Right.
problem, no, it's not going to happen. But you can distract, you can redirect,
Sure.
you can reframe your request. And that class can walk you through how to say all of that in a
Right.
manner that will work with someone who has Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. The other thing they'll discuss is the category of dementia. So a lot of people think it's interchangeable. It's the same thing, and it sort of is, but not.
Right.
So just like you have cancer and then you have skin cancer, breast cancer, so and so cancer, you have dementia, which is the umbrella term. And under that, you have Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal lobe dementia,
Right.
and other forms.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's is the most diagnosed form of dementia, which is why you hear so much more about it
Right.
when talking about that term. So I always like to share that with people to help them just better understand a little bit
Yeah.
what those terms mean.
Definitely. What are, and I hope people will go and check out the website and really look through it. I know I'm going to because I wanna learn more.
Mhm.
I love to do that. But what are a few of the warning signs, that maybe not all of them, but a few important ones that people should take note of?
Sure. So, with both parents having had Alzheimer's, my dad will call me in a panic and say, "Your mother forgot where her keys were. She has Alzheimer's." And I'm like,
Dad.
"Okay, Dad, did she remember she forgot where her keys were?" He's like, "Yes." And I said, "She does not have dementia. She remembered she had keys.
Right.
She remembered she had them at some point. Dad, was she able to retrace her steps and find the keys?" "Yes." "She's good. Like, she's good. It'll be okay."
Right.
Problem solving. When you notice those problem solving skills becoming an issue, that's a concern.
Right.
When you see them socializing much, much less, that's a concern. One reason, just one,
As far as what?
Communicating with others, because communication, just having a conversation with somebody, is an extremely complex action for your brain.
I would
You're
think,
having to
yeah.
have vocabulary, you're having to figure out what those words mean, you're having to do nonverbal skills of turn taking in a conversation, eye
I'm not very
contact,
good at that sometimes.
eye contact,
Right.
things, all of those things.
Sure.
Pulling memories out, pulling them from the right part of the brain, things like that.
Okay.
So when you find they're talking less, and they're not socializing like they used to, that's just another clue to go, we need to have a closer
Right.
look.
Okay.
It can be, there's just so many signs. So when I talk to my neurologist, because I go every year for a
Sure.
screening
Right.
because of my family history,
Hmm.
we had a long talk about it. And he said, because currently the only way to determine Alzheimer's or another form of dementia is an autopsy on the brain.
Right.
Not happening.
I've heard that.
Not happening for me
Like,
yet. Not
no,
quite yet.
no, I'm not going to do that either.
No. Or a PET scan,
Okay.
which actually the PET
Detailed
scan I
imaging,
learned,
right?
the PET scanner I learned was developed through research on Alzheimer's and other dementia,
That is really
trying
cool.
to get into that detailed imagery.
Right.
So it did play a part in helping that to come to fruition.
Sure.
Well, insurance won't pay for it typically.
Really?
And it is expensive enough that most Americans cannot
Can't
afford to
afford
pay
it.
out of pocket.
So we're talking multiple thousands.
Yeah. So those two possibilities are not happening. So then it is a disease where you rule everything else out first, and then you sit down and look at, do we have the characteristics here? So they're going to run
Wow.
all kinds of blood tests to make sure it's not, if you're
Vitamin
on a
deficiency.
medication and the medication
Sure.
dose is causing issues like brain fog. Could be the medication. Could be the medication competing with another medication you're taking with, and together they cause some issues. So they're going to check into that. They're going to look at all your vitamin levels.
Of
They're going to
course.
see if you're dehydrated. They're going to
All
see if
things
you
that
have
would cause
diabetes,
issues.
heart
Right.
disease. They're going to look at all of those things and
Hey, you'll
rule
get a
them out.
very full workup.
You will. You will. And then they're going to look at what's left. They're going to do a cognitive examination where they're going to ask a lot of questions.
Right. Yes, I do remember they did that with my
I'm going to tell
grandmother.
you 5 words, and at the end of our conversation, I want you to repeat those words back to me. Okay, I have the attention span of a gnat. So my neurologist, that's part of my screening, and I just look at him and laugh, and I'm like, how about we go for 3?
Yeah.
We know my baseline is 3.
Best 3 of 5.
Yeah, like we know my baseline is 3.
Right.
So depending on how much sleep I've had,
Right.
you might draw a clock. They're gonna. It's a very complex examination. It's not just all of those simple
Right.
actions, but they're going to look at fine motor skills. They're going to look at your receptive vocabulary, which is vocabulary you understand without having to verbalize back. So if you said cat, I would have a picture of a cat in my brain and I would know what a cat is.
Right.
You know, it has fur, it has a long tail, you know, it says meow, and so forth.
Right.
They're going to look at expressive language, the words you use, because one sign can be what's called aphasia, where you have difficulty.
Right.
We've heard a lot about that through Bruce Willis and his family. He was diagnosed with aphasia, and part of his difficulty is word search. Like, I know the word I want to say. I know I want to say cat, but I might say purple. And I might not realize I said purple. on top of it. So I'm not self-monitoring my own vocabulary.
I do that sometimes.
So it's all looking at a lot of different things and
Right.
having them distill down into that diagnosis. Is it 100% accurate? No, it's
No.
still an objective
Yeah.
diagnosis. It's still a diagnosis where the person who is providing that diagnosis, while it's typically a team and not one single person,
Right.
their training plays a part in how they make that diagnosis.
Right.
Their own beliefs play a part in that diagnosis. Like there's a lot of things that are flexible,
Sure.
you might say. Now, if we had a blood test, yes or no, do I have Alzheimer's? Like you do with diabetes. Yes or no, do I have diabetes? You take a test, you know. If
Yep.
my A1C,
A1C.
my
Yep.
A1C is not the right number, yep, I do. Or no, I don't.
Yeah, because nothing's going to cause that weird A1C.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Currently,
Other than
there are in clinical trials
for a blood test.
for a blood test.
Oh, wow.
And I believe a saliva test. So
Even better.
there are things that are in clinical trials right now.
Right.
The other thing the Alzheimer's Association does is they do a lot of advocacy. They advocate for the person with the disease. They advocate for their caregivers. They
Right.
advocate for their families. Things like on the state level, they were a huge advocate and a big part of why they were able to pass a caregiver's respite care bill
Yes.
with the state.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Reeves
Yes.
was one of the people who proposed the bill.
Okay.
He's a wonderful advocate for Alzheimer's. And this bill was able to use funds that came to them and be able to use companies that already are vetted for the government
Right.
to provide respite care and other services
Sure.
to families who are on Medicare or Medicaid lists
Sure.
already, and provide that to families. Because if you are caring for a loved one and say you're a spouse, like it's 24/7.
Yes.
Typically by the
Absolutely.
age of diagnosis, kids are out of the house, right? If you're over
Yeah.
65, kids are out of the house. So it's just you, baby. You
Yeah.
know, that's exhausting. You can't go to the grocery store sometimes.
Absolutely.
You can't go to the bathroom sometimes,
Yeah.
depending on how behavior is at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that respite care is not only a benefit to the person diagnosed with the disease, but to their caregiver, which
Yeah.
will then play a part in their own health, because if they can have respite and have a moment to
They can
recharge
reset.
and
Yeah.
reset, it has a domino effect, right?
Definitely.
So that's one of the latest things that have gone on. We also advocate at the federal level. So I've been lucky enough to go through the Alzheimer's Association to DC
Okay.
and speak with our senator and representative, Scott Desjardins, who I spoke with.
Yes. I met him before as well.
And he definitely has a heart for what these families are going through as a physician.
Right.
And so we advocate with them to really provide funds and continue to up those funds to the National Institute of Health, which is where the funds kind of allocate through to
Right.
research.
Sure.
And we actually have funded research at UT Med Center, Vanderbilt University,
Mm-hmm.
Meharry Medical, and St. Jude's. There's a form of childhood dementia that they
Oh,
study.
wow.
Dementia can also occur through concussions, so they work with NFL. The association does.
Yeah.
To do research into that. So we have that going on. So research is a big part of what the Alzheimer's Association supports. Now, it's give, no charge to anybody, right?
Right.
Millions and millions and millions of dollars. Where's it coming from?
What's behind door one, Dena?
The Walk to End Alzheimer's, Rutherford County.
All right.
So the Walk to End Alzheimer's is held in every state around the United States. It's held typically in multiple communities. In Tennessee, we have it in, Tri-Cities, Knoxville, Nashville, Clarksville, Rutherford County, Tullahoma, Lynchburg, Jackson, and Memphis.
Oh, wow.
I hope I got them all. I hope I did. Those walks serve a multiple purpose. One, it raises money so that they can keep those resources free of charge.
Sure.
Because families are already going through a financial disaster.
Sure.
They're spending out their 401ks,
Yep.
their pension plans, any savings that they might have. Social Security, we hear all the time in the news, is not going to last long.
Right.
So what's going to pay for the assisted living? And the assisted living has to make enough to pay their own employees
Right.
and pay for their own services, the building, their own utility. I mean, it can't be free on that end either.
Right.
The medications, so forth and so forth. So they have the Walk to End Alzheimer's in order to provide those dollars. They also do a couple of other things nationwide. They do the Longest Day, which is held on the summer solstice. And that's more of a do-it-yourself kind of fundraiser, one day only.
Okay.
Becky Lanham is going to have her famous dance recital, and all of the proceeds are going to go to her Longest Day fundraiser. And we want to thank Kevin Fair with Amada Senior Care for being the presenting sponsor for that.
Great.
And that brings in money for those resources.
Yep.
Some major cities like San Francisco hold galas. So there's a couple.
They're a little fancy.
They're a little fancy. There are some cities that do bike-a-thons where instead of a walk run, it's a bike ride.
Okay.
But every state does the Walk to End Alzheimer's. And so it's a day when we all can come together. And really, it's the biggest support group of the year. You feel really, really alone in this fight when you're in the middle of it with this loved one. You feel like nobody's going through this like I'm going through this. And to be surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of people who are going through it or have gone through it, who can say, I understand, and give you a hug.
Right.
Like my first year, I bawled like a baby because it just hit me like a brick wall all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so it's a fun event. We have anywhere from babies in strollers to seniors in their walkers or their wheelchairs. It's a pet-friendly event. This year, we're going to have a pet costume contest.
Oh, wow.
Because it's going to be held October 28th at Siegel High School. Registration will start at 8:30. Our short program will start at 9 o'clock. And then walkers will start walking at 9:30.
Okay.
So we'll have that pet costume contest. We're going to have trick-or-treating at the sponsor tents for the children. So it's a fun time, but it's also a very touching time because you see people at the walk who are living with a disease.
Yeah.
And to hear their stories from them.
Right.
Try not to cry, try not to cry. It can be incredibly profound to hear them speak what they're going through. or to hear from children who are slowly losing their parents. One year we had a celebrity guest chairperson, Andrew Leahy. And he talked about his mom who's living with the disease now. And he wrote a song about how she was there, but she was slowly going away.
Right.
And to hear these stories, it's a privilege, first of all, because there's still a huge stigma about living with this disease. I can remember years ago talking to my grandmother. You have to understand she's from East Kentucky, okay? And I would say, I asked her, I said, so what did you do with people who had this disease when you were a child or you were a young adult? And she said, well, we just thought they were plumb crazy. And we just put them in the house back in the back room when we had company. Because that was the image then.
It was the socially acceptable thing to do.
It was. They thought, honestly, at that time, that it had to do with being, quote unquote, crazy, which I dislike that word. We have come so far since then in understanding the disease and really want to bring it out into the open, because we all know talking about mental health needs to be normalized
across the board.
Okay, so stop me, because I will hop on a soapbox in a hot minute on this topic.
Hey, Dena, we'll get together for lunch or something, and we'll do that part another time.
But mental health needs to be normalized.
Yes.
And Alzheimer's used to be thought of as a mental health disorder. It is a physiological disorder. It is a disease. It is still treated at behavioral health hospitals.
What? Why?
Currently, the way the system is set up, that is the best place for people with the disease to be treated. Typically, people with the disease are only in a behavioral health hospital when they need to adjust medications, when there's been a real change in behavior, a danger to themselves, something of that. And then once it's all adjusted and we're back to even keel, then they go back to the home or to a facility, which typically will have what we hear as memory care facilities, which are facilities for people with this disease. We need to normalize asking for help for this. We need to normalize having that help available. And we need to normalize saying, my family's dealing with this, because I can go and give a talk to, say, a business, because I'll say, I promise you, you have more employees dealing with this than you think. Right?
Right.
And I will ask, if you are currently dealing with this disease through a parent, a spouse, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, somebody like that, raise your hand. And close to half the room will raise their hand. If you have currently or have had in the past.
Right.
And I promise you, every time two people are going to look at each other and go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Because we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We do not talk about it. So this walk is, yes, it's to raise money so we can make these resources available, so we don't have to add to the financial burden of the medical system or the families. But it's also awareness to get that word out that we have the website, we have the hotline, We have the research. We have the clinical trials that you can participate, whether you have it in your family or not. You can hop on alz.org, click on clinical trials, and register. And your assistance will make a difference.
Hmm.
You don't have to go in. A lot of people think, oh, clinical trial, I'm going to have to go in. They're going to have to draw blood. We're not having that. Clinical
I
trials.
can relate to that.
Yeah. Clinical trials can be as simple as I'm registered. I participated in a study. A couple of months, I had to hop on the computer and do some tests where it might say A, B, J, and I had to like click on the one that didn't make sense. It might be words. It might be perception, visual perception,
Right.
where I'm having to look and find the right thing. There's a lot of things that can be done without going in and without giving blood that are still a huge help to
Definitely.
research. So we're going to have the walk. We're always looking for people to join in. You can join in a variety of different ways. One way is join my committee. I am accepting help from my committee to plan this whole big event. So we need people to help us with the logistics of planning this event. It takes all year to plan it. The week after the event, we're planning next year. So we've been planning since
October, November.
last year.
Yeah.
For this year's event. So we have logistics, day of stuff. We've got to have police. We've got to have the streets marked off. Got to hire that company to do that. We have to coordinate all of them being there at the right time.
Right.
On the right day.
Yeah.
We have to have volunteers. It takes a lot of volunteers to make this village happen, right?
Yeah.
So we have to have somebody who's our coordinator of volunteers. We have a lot going on with the whole logistics thing. Then we have another committee that works on the community. So they have friends and families create walk teams, and they raise money all year long in a variety of ways, however they would like. It's very much be as creative as you wish, right?
Right.
It can be just calling your family up like I did. Actually, I texted everybody and said, here's the link. I expect everybody to donate. I will be watching and texting later if you did not.
Did that work for you?
Yes. I'm what you call persistent.
Oh, I love that word.
I'm not bossy. I'm persistent.
I'm both. I'm not scared of it.
No, not at all. They also work on things like community events. So they'll have a table at the Juneteenth celebration.
Right.
They'll have tables at other celebrations. They will have a Paint the Town Purple event where we ask businesses to basically turn your business purple, sell an item that has purple,
Right.
have just some of our literature in your business.
Sure.
It's all about awareness that week, really, truly.
Right.
So they have a whole committee that does that. And then my committee deals with sponsorships because it costs money to make this happen. Those stages aren't free. The costs
Sure.
come into play here,
Yeah.
right? So my committee works with businesses to be corporate partners with us.
Right.
And that corporate partnership can look a variety of different ways. It could be an in-kind donation. It can be a monetary donation. We can really make it very individualized in terms
Sure.
of what that looks like.
Yep.
And so we are just so deeply appreciative of businesses that decide, hey, my community means a lot to me. I need to support this. They need my help. And so many times they'll not only support us financially, but they'll have a walk team for their company.
Right.
And they'll fundraise a little bit through that also. And so that's what we work on with that.
Right.
So lots of different ways to volunteer. Like I said, volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. We need them day of.
Mhm.
We need people to make phone calls to past teams and
Sure.
say, hey, we'd love to have you join us. Are you thinking about coming back next year? We know she hadn't registered yet. Come out to our events. We have events throughout the community. Just come out and
Right.
support us. Like, it doesn't cost a dime to do that. It just
Yep.
costs your time to do that. And that is equally as valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yes, that is a big thing to have happen.
Yeah.
But we're hoping to have over 800 people at the event this
Okay.
year. And our goal is to raise $250,000.
Awesome.
We are hoping to get 50,000 of that in sponsorships.
Yep.
We're not quite there yet. We're sitting at about $20,000. So
Yeah.
if you or your business would like to support your community, they can always reach out to me, and I would love to help them.
Great. Well, Dena, I would love to thank you for your time. Oh, and guys, I never corrected. Clearly, I'm not Jonathan Harmon. I am
What?
I am Michelle Reeves, Jonathan's elusive ops boss.
That's right.
I'm the glue holding them together.
Yes, you are.
It's so true.
But anyway, Dena, thank you again for coming on. And I feel like I have learned a lot just by sitting and listening and having a conversation with you. And I've been giving myself homework as you go down your list of things you've shared. And
Well, we do
yeah.
have, we have special sponsorships for realtors. I'm kind of hawking that right now. So I'd love to talk to realtors in the area about sponsorship. And then honestly, if there's just any way that I can help a family connect with the resources,
Perfect.
I want to say thank you for sharing your personal story.
Oh, absolutely.
Because not everybody's that comfortable, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing your personal story.
Absolutely.
Hey, got
Thank you.
one more thing. We got to pay some bills on the way out.
Uh,
Speaking of sponsors and stuff, got to give a big shout out to our guy Brian Neal. We just made this brand new commercial, so I had to get it. In
Love
this
Brian.
episode. So thank you again, Dena. Sorry to cut you off, Michelle. Thank you for stepping in as always, and big thank you to Brian Neal.
Hey, my name is Brian Nail. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Primis Bank Mortgage. I want to tell you that I absolutely love being a member of the Spread the Positive Network. It's such a great mission and helps bring so much positivity to our community. It's truly a pleasure to be part of. There are a lot of ways to navigate financing a home, and in markets like this, having the advice of a trusted local professional is key to making sure you get the right advice for your specific circumstances. Whether you're interested in the purchase of a new home, second home, or have a need for a refinance, I'd love to earn your trust. If I can help you nail your mortgage, call me at 615-243-3976 or visit nailyourmortgage.com.
Primis Mortgage is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC, equal housing opportunity. As always, all loans are subject to approval. Primis Mortgage, NMLS number 1894879.
Awesome. You want to wrap it up? Or are we done?
Am I? No, I'm done. Are you done? Are we done?
You
I
can
don't know.
find more info about the walk at www.rucowalk.com. That's RUCOWALK.com, and register or donate today.
Awesome. Thank you again, and we'll wrap this one up.